Hi, boys and girls. Mrs. Kappel here. How are you today on this cloudy, maybe somewhat rainy Monday morning? I have my calendar here for you, and I was really thinking about how you've been doing with writing your numbers. We are getting pretty close to the end of May. We have only about a week and a half left of May, and then when we turn to our June calendar, that's going to be your time to really show me how well you have been practicing writing your numbers. So today is a tracing day. It's Monday, May 18th. So be really careful for the next days in May that you are truly forming your numbers perfectly. Be sure that you are checking with a grown up before you do your coloring. Remember, I say that to you all the time. Now, if you are doing math or doing numbers and countings and things like that, you should always keep a number line that's right in front of you. So you always have some sort of model or some sort of guide for you to make sure that you are following your numbers correctly. Good job, boys and girls. So today I decided I wanted to do two books for you today because they both kind of talk about the same thing. So the first one is called What is a Fish? Now, tomorrow when we meet for our Under the Sea class session, we are going to be talking about fish. So I really want you to pay attention to today's story. It's called What is a Fish? Now, the thing about this book is even though there are drawings, it's still filled with lots of real facts. So even though this is not a true nonfiction kind of book, this is realistic fiction because you are going to learn about the world of fish. So here we go. There are many kinds of fish. There are sharks, catfish, and salmon, just to name a few. There are many sizes of fish. So they come in all sizes, all shapes. But there are some things that are the same about fish. Now, a guppy and a goldfish are very small. They're only about that big, depending on the goldfish. The goldfish in our school tank are about that big, right? But then a shark can be very big. Some sharks are very large. Some sharks can be as big as your hand. All fish have gills. Gills help the fish breathe. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Most fish have fins to help them swim. All fish live in water. That is true. So these are the fins all around the body here and up there. Can you see this fish? What is that called? Do you know? A seahorse, right? Most fish live in the ocean. The ocean has salty water. Hmm. We'll talk about why the ocean is salty tomorrow. Other fish live in fresh water. Fresh water means it doesn't have salt. So lakes and rivers and streams all have fresh water. That's the difference. You have salt water and you have fresh water. These fish are called perch, pike, that's a sunfish, and that's a catfish. See the little whiskers there? Kind of looks like a cat. There are many kinds of fish. This is a swordfish. It can swim very fast. This fish lives in the ocean. A salmon can live in both salt water and fresh water. See, there aren't very many fish that can do that. So this makes it the salmon a very special kind of fish. It's born in a stream, but usually spends most of its life in the ocean. So he's born, he's hatched out of an egg, he makes his way to the ocean, lives his whole life there, and then let's see what happens. Later, it swims back to a stream to lay its eggs. It swims back to the same stream where it was born. It's very hard for the salmon to swim upstream. That means the water is going towards the ocean and he's going in the opposite direction. That's what it means when he's swimming upstream. Sometimes it will jump high over the water. Well, it's easier for the fish to do that than to swim against the current. The current is the pushing water. After the salmon lays its eggs, it returns to the ocean. And soon the baby salmon hatch. They too will swim in the ocean to live. Fish come from eggs, they hatch from eggs. Yes, you remember we talked about that? What hatches from eggs? Fish, not just birds. Fish are in all the waters of the world. This is a tuna, a halibut, that's a marlin, that's a jackfish, and a grouper. They are in streams and lakes and oceans, or even in your own home. Look at that fishbowl. Yeah, we would have a fishbowl in our class by now, for sure. If you have a fish tank at your home, I sure would love to see a picture of that. Well, that's all for this book, boys and girls. So we are going to move on into my a second book called This is an Ocean. Now, this book has actual photographs. Yes, this is our nonfiction book. And since we are learning about the ocean, I thought this would be a good story for you. It's written by Gina Klein and Joy Washington. So there it is. It's a little shiny. I'm sorry. I'll try to move the book so you can see it clearly. This is an ocean. Oceans have water. So this is a very splashing part of the picture here. That's the waves crashing against the shore. These rocks here, that's the edge of the land. That's also called the coast. So this is the shoreline or the coast, and that's, of course, the water. Do you know what that is? That's a salt shaker, right? That's salt. Ocean water has salt in it. That's right. It comes from the rivers and the streams that feed into the ocean. All those freshwater streams and rivers are bringing their minerals and they drop it into the ocean. Then the water, remember the water cycle? The water evaporates, but it's not the salt or the salt water that's evaporating, it's the fresh water. It comes out of that ocean and goes up into the clouds, and condensation happens, and then when it rains, it doesn't rain salt water, it rains fresh water, and it goes around and around. That's how the ocean is salted. Now, some oceans look like this, and some oceans look like this. So you can tell that this is a warm part of the world, and this is much colder. Those look like icebergs. Now, there's lots of sun here. You see, here's the surface. This is the sunshine that's shining down on the top of the ocean. So this is the surface. That means that's where boats are, that's where people swim. Then you go underwater, and then the ocean floor is even lower. So there are many layers of the ocean. We'll talk about that. Now, at the surface, there's also birds. That's a seagull. And there are plants. Baby turtles love to live right over here in this seaweed. There are fish here too. Those are called mackerel. Now, as you go a little bit deeper, there's some sun here, and there are lots of fish. And you can see there's coral. There's some, what are these, sweet tips fish? And then they have turtles and dolphins. Now, dolphins are not fish. There are whales. This is a humpback whale. Whales are not fish either. There are sharks there too. This is a lemon shark. A shark is a fish. You know the difference yet? We'll talk about that tomorrow. Now, all of these animals look like the water. It's kind of like their camouflage. It helps them stay protected in the water. When they look up, they look white. You see if you look underneath them, they're white because it's like you're looking at the surface. They look like the water above. That's a tiger shark. That makes it very good for him. He becomes a really good hunter because when a fish is looking up and they see, oh, it just looks like white. Guess what? Somebody's going to become their lunch. Now, when you see the top of them or when you look down, they look dark. That's a black tip shark, black tip reef shark. They look dark like the water below. Now, this is the ocean floor. When you go down very deep, it's kind of dark and it's hard to see, but no sunlight gets down there. Very little. Then you have lots of strange kind of creatures that live deeper in the ocean. There's other kinds of fish like the lionfish and the crab. They live on the seafloor. This is seagrass and lots of rocks and plants. Now, take a look at how these sea creatures camouflage. Can you see the scorpion fish in that picture? It's a little difficult because he blends right in with the rocks. That's a stonefish. Look at that. There's a fish in that picture. Can you tell? That's a parrotfish. And the hermit crab. They blend right in with the rocks, don't they? Can you see the octopus in this picture? Yeah, it's a little hard to see. I'm telling you he's there, so you're really looking for it. Okay, so now we have an ocean food web. What that means is kind of like a food chain, like what feeds what. So we can start at the top of the food chain, and that's us. That's right, that's for people. And this is how it goes. So people do hunting, they catch fish, big fish catch the little fish eat the plants and the smaller sea creatures and things like that. Remember, we talked about the water cycle. Water travels in a cycle. Yes, it does. Well, here is the body of water. This is the ocean and rivers and pools and puddles and any place where water is stored. And when the sun shines, what happens? The water goes up, evaporation forms a cloud as condensation, then falls down precipitation. Yes, it does. So if it's warm, below 32 or higher than 32 degrees, it's going to fall as rain. If it's colder, then it'll fall as snow or hail. Okay, so that is the end of our story. There was so much going on in this book, but there was a lot to talk about here. And tomorrow, when we do our Under the Sea adventure for our Google Class meeting, we'll be learning lots more about the ocean and fish and what makes a fish a fish. Well, I hope you enjoyed my story, my friends. Bye bye for now.